Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. It is a beautiful day today. It's a little overcast, but still, it's really nice out today. It was about low tide about an hour ago, so we still have a little bit of a slack tide happening here, and it's really calm out there. Of course, they shut down the river to fishing right now, so nobody's out there. Like typically, you would see a ton of boats out there, people having a good time, but they shut down the river for fishing, and I never did understand that. I still, if there was any kind of social distancing activity out there, it would be fishing, So why they shut it down because of this whole lockdown is just beyond me. I guess maybe because they don't want to be trying to enforce laws and stuff, having to get, onto people's boats and inspect boats and inspect their fish and stuff. I don't know. I have no idea why they would shut down fishing. It just seems ridiculous. Anyway, I thought I would talk a little bit about the Chinese central bank digital currency that has now been implemented and is now in use. And one of the things that I found interesting about this central bank digital currency that China has now introduced into their commerce is that it's just still in test phase right now, but it's in actual practical use. But what I found interesting is that some of the businesses that are part of the test program for this digital currency are American companies like Starbucks, McDonald's, Subway. And I thought, isn't that interesting? It's not like they're local businesses, which are some, they do have a bunch of local businesses too that are accepting it. But it's a few American companies as well, and I could only assume that they want to be part of the program, the test program, so that they can implement it here in the United States. This is like the, what do they call that? The beta program, But this is going to be real interesting. China would be an obvious place to try this out because most transactions that are done over there, most people are using like Alipay or WeChat or some other kind of electronic, payment system where you just basically use your phone to make your payments, do money transfers and stuff like that. And I'm starting to notice that a lot of people here at least at the store that I work at, that a lot of people are starting to use their phone to do like Google Pay or Apple Pay or something like that, where they just pretty much hover their phone over the top of the credit card reader, and bam, out comes a receipt. And I was, just for my own entertainment, in my own interest, I started recognizing different credit cards that people have, and I'm not sure. I probably should have looked this up before I started the video, but there's a lot of cards out there that will just read the card from hovering the card over the top of the machine. You don't actually have to stick the chip in or swipe it. There's a lot of them you can just lay the card right on top of the machine, and it'll just read it, and out pops a receipt, very much like the Google Pay or Alipay or Apple Pay or Samsung Pay or all the different ones that are out there. It does very much the same thing. And so I noticed that a lot of people are starting to use this. And so when it comes time to introduce a digital currency into the system, I think most people probably won't even notice. Like, it'll just take place and people will just be like, didn't even know that they were using a digital currency. They'll just be like, well, I have this app on my phone that I've been using, and every place accepts it. And they didn't even realize at the time that they had converted them over to a digital currency. Because they're just so used to using like a PayPal or Venmo, different apps like that where you don't actually have to interact with anybody. You can just, use their email address or, scan a QR code. And I have a feeling that's what's probably going to end up taking place here in the future. And China is just the test subject to work out the bugs of the system to see how well it actually works and how willing people are going to be to using it. So it's only a matter of time before this digital currency, kind of finds its way throughout the rest of the world. And like I said, being McDonald's and Starbucks and Subway, being part of the program over there in China, the day that they decide that they're going to go worldwide with this, I mean, those are three companies that can really just spread it across the world very quickly. And of course, the real reason behind it is, and we've talked about this in the past, but if this is the first time you've ever been to my channel, the real reason why central banks want to go to a digital currency is so that they can implement a negative interest rate. And it's only a matter of time before the negative interest rates hit. Maybe we'll do another video talking about deflation and the way to combat deflation, because central banks generally want to drop interest rates during a recession. The dropping of interest rates will spark people to go out there and borrow money. And, that way you can buy houses and cars and go on vacation, do whatever. But you need to be able to drop the interest rates to do it. And the United States has now hit the lower bound. They're essentially at zero right now with their Fed funds rate. And it doesn't give them a whole lot of room to drop interest rates, because typically they would want to go around 5% drop on these interest rates, and they just don't have the room to do it. Now, they could go negative on their interest rates, but once those negative interest rates start finding their way into the rest of the banking system and essentially find their way into your bank accounts, people are just going to pull their money out in cash. So before they can do that, they really have to have this digital currency up and running and people using it before they're going to be able to really take interest rates into a serious negative position, because, like I said, most people will just pull their money out in cash. And every day I'm hearing more and more about how stores are kind of, not that they're rejecting cash, because I would imagine that if you really push the issue, most stores would probably take cash. But there is a lot of even in my local area, this is what I'm talking about. A lot of them are encouraging that you use debit cards or credit cards to do the transaction. They just don't want to even handle any cash. And the other day I ordered a pizza to be delivered to the house. And that's what they requested, that we didn't pay cash, but that we paid with a credit card over the phone. And I had no problem with that because I wanted the pizza. And when the delivery guy come, I always tip the delivery guy, and he had no problem taking cash too. But it's starting to happen. A lot of commerce out there, especially with the concern of the virus and all that, a lot of people are starting to push for the idea of just using credit cards and debit cards. And this is going to really, give the idea of a central bank digital currency app for doing purchases a bigger boost. At least in my opinion, it will. So yeah, in order to take interest rates negative, you have to get the cash out of the system, because once negative interest rates hits your bank account, you're going to pull your money out in cash. And so that's, why they need to implement this digital currency. At least that's why the central banks do. And what they'll do to get the cash out of the system is they'll start devaluing cash to the digital currency that's in the bank. So if you deposit, say, $100 into the bank, you're only going to end up with $98 or something like that as far as the digital currency. And then over time, that'll just progressively get, bigger and bigger as far as the amount that they'll so eventually, you'll deposit $100 cash into the bank and you only get $50 digital dollars out of it. And this is the way they're going to pretty much get cash out of the system, is that they're just going to force you, hey guys, everybody knows me. So this is the way they're going to get cash out of the system, essentially, is to just devalue it to the digital currency. And the IMF pretty much did a report on that, I don't know, it was a little over a year ago, I guess. And I'll leave links down in the description for all this. But it's starting to happen here, guys. And China, you got to keep your eye on China now, because once the test time is over and they really start, pushing it out there to be, for everyday use and everyday transactions and everywhere you go, I bet you anything you're going to start seeing the cash in China pretty much disappear. Like I said already, over in China, hardly anybody is, well, I shouldn't say hardly anybody, but the majority of commerce that's done over there is done through apps anyway, people just using their phones to make the purchases. So yeah, it's only a matter of time before it really takes place. Anyway, I guess that would be what I have to talk about today. How about I give you guys a shot of the river since it's so beautiful out there. And I know a lot of people ask about that bridge. That's the Megler Bridge going from Astoria over to Washington. It's 4.3 miles from once you get on the bridge till you cross over to the other side. Uneducated Economist. You let me know.